sprawling across nearly 7 million square miles. South America stands as a continent where wilderness still reigns supreme. From the world's largest rainforest to towering mountain ranges that scrape the sky, from bone-dry deserts to vast wetlands teeming with life. This is a land of spectacular extremes. Here, evolution has crafted creatures found nowhere else on Earth. Species that defy imagination. Survival strategies born from millions of years of adaptation. We journey now across this vibrant continent to witness some of its most extraordinary wild places. Each harbors remarkable animals that have mastered their domains, sometimes against impossible odds. This is South America. Untamed, unforgiving, and utterly magnificent. Rising abruptly from the rainforest floor, sheer sandstone cliffs soar thousands of feet into the sky. Their flat tops, often shrouded in clouds, form isolated islands in the air, separated from the surrounding landscape for millions of years. These are the Tepuis, ancient table mountains of the Guiana Shield, among Earth's oldest geological formations, dating back nearly 2 billion years to the Precambrian era. These sandstone remnants have stood while continents collided and separated, while countless species evolved and disappeared. The isolation of their summits has created evolutionary laboratories unlike anywhere else on Earth. Many plants and animals found atop these sky islands exist nowhere else, having evolved in complete separation from their nearest relatives for tens of millions of years. Here, time itself seems to move differently. Species presumed extinct for eons may still thrive in these forgotten worlds. Conditions that vanished from the rest of the planet long ago persist in these rarefied realms. Welcome to the Tepuis of Venezuela, Guyana, and Brazil. These are landscapes so extraordinary that they inspired Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World and the floating mountains of the film Avatar. These are not merely mountains, but windows into Earth's distant past. The origins of these remarkable formations begin with sediments deposited in an ancient sea nearly 2 billion years ago. Compressed into sandstone and quartzite, these rocks were later uplifted as part of the Guyana Shield, one of Earth's most ancient geological features. Over countless millennia, erosion carved away softer surrounding rock, leaving these more resistant formations standing in magnificent isolation. Today, approximately 115 major tepuis exist, ranging from a few square miles to the massive Oyan Tepui, which covers over 270 square miles. What makes these formations truly extraordinary is their ecological isolation. Their sheer cliffs, some extending more than 3,000 feet, vertically create effective barriers to migration for most plants and animals. Species trapped atop these summits when they separated from surrounding lands evolved in isolation, developing unique adaptations found nowhere else. Let's explore some remarkable inhabitants of these ancient sky islands. living testimonies to the power of evolution in isolation. In the cool, misty environment of a tepui summit, a small but distinctive mammal moves with purpose along the banks of a dark stream. About the size of a small rabbit, it combines features that seem borrowed from diverse animal groups: the sensitive snout of a shrew, the aquatic adaptations of an otter, and the appearance of a large rodent. This is the giant otter shrew of the tepuis, an evolutionary enigma found nowhere else on Earth. Not a true shrew nor related to otters, this remarkable creature belongs to an ancient mammalian lineage that evolved in isolation atop these mountains. Its closest relatives may be small insectivores found in African rainforests. A biogeographical mystery that hints at connections from when South America and Africa were joined in the supercontinent Gondwana. Perfectly adapted to its specialized habitat, the otter shrew divides its time between terrestrial foraging and aquatic hunting. Waterproof fur and partially webbed feet make it an efficient swimmer, while sensitive whiskers detect prey movements in the dark waters of tepui streams. Now the animal slips into the water with barely a ripple. Swimming with undulating movements reminiscent of an otter, it uses its sensitive nose to detect prey hidden in underwater crevices. Small fish, aquatic insects, and freshwater crabs make up the bulk of its diet. What makes this species remarkable isn't just its unique appearance, but its extreme specialization. Found only in the pristine waterways atop certain tepuis, these animals require very specific conditions, such as clean, cool water with abundant prey, and undisturbed banks for their burrow systems. Unlike many small mammals with rapid reproductive cycles, otter shrews produce just 1 or 2 young per year. Pups remain with their mother for several months, learning the complex hunting techniques needed to survive in this specialized niche. Scientific knowledge about these animals remains limited due to their remote habitat and cryptic behavior. First described scientifically in 1962, they were initially believed to be recent evolutionary arrivals to the tepui summits. Genetic studies now suggest they may represent a much older lineage, a living fossil preserved in this unchanging environment, while relatives elsewhere went extinct. The giant otter shrew faces few natural threats within its isolated domain, that no large predators inhabit the tepui summits. Yet its extreme specialization makes it vulnerable to even minor environmental changes. Climate alteration that affects water temperatures or prey availability could have catastrophic consequences for a species with nowhere else to go. Currently listed as near threatened, their greatest protection comes from the inaccessibility of their habitat. Most tepui summits lie within national parks or other protected areas, though enforcement in such remote regions remains challenging. The otter shrew represents just one example of the tepui's unique fauna. Specialized creatures that have evolved in splendid isolation, undisturbed by the great evolutionary shifts that transformed life elsewhere on our planet. In a landscape where nutrients are scarce and competition is fierce, plants have evolved extraordinary strategies for survival. None are more dramatic than those that have reversed the usual order of nature, becoming predators rather than prey. Against the dark rock of a tepui summit, a cluster of bromeliads forms a striking geometric pattern. Their overlapping leaves create water-collecting cups that gleam invitingly in the intermittent sunlight. But these are not ordinary plants. They are sophisticated traps for unwary insects and even small vertebrates. This is Brocchinia reducta, one of the world's largest carnivorous bromeliads, and a marvel of evolutionary adaptation. Unlike most plants that derive nutrients from soil through their roots, these specialized hunters obtain vital nitrogen and phosphorus from the bodies of animals they capture and digest. The trap's design demonstrates remarkable convergent evolution with pitcher plants found elsewhere in the world. Downward-pointing hairs line the slippery rim, ensuring that insects seeking water or shelter can enter easily, but cannot escape. The plant produces ultraviolet patterns invisible to human eyes, but highly attractive to flying insects. What appears to be simply collected rainwater is actually a sophisticated digestive soup. The plant secretes enzymes that break down captured prey, while specialized cells in the leaf surface absorb the resulting nutrients. Beneficial bacteria living within this liquid aid the digestive process, creating a complex microecosystem within each plant. Thousands of specialized hair-like structures inside the cup serve multiple functions, such as preventing prey escape, increasing surface area for nutrient absorption, and creating habitat for the bacteria that assist in digestion. This complexity represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Unlike most bromeliads that grow as epiphytes on other plants, these carnivores establish themselves directly on the nutrient-poor sandstone of the tepui summits. Their ability to derive nutrition from captured prey allows them to thrive where other plants struggle to obtain sufficient nutrients. Even their reproduction shows specialized adaptation to their harsh environment. Wind-dispersed seeds can establish in the tiniest cracks in the rock surface. Once established, many species can reproduce vegetatively, sending out runners that develop into clones of the parent plant, a strategy that ensures continuation even when pollination might be unreliable. Scientists have identified several carnivorous bromeliad species unique to different tepuis, and evidence that these plants evolved their predatory strategy independently on multiple isolated summits. This pattern of parallel evolution highlights the powerful selective pressure exerted by the nutrient-poor conditions. The remarkable adaptations of these plants have drawn botanists and plant enthusiasts to the tepuis since their scientific discovery, though reaching their remote habitats remains challenging. Their unusual biology continues to yield insights into plant evolution and adaptation to extreme environments. Protected primarily by the remoteness of their habitat, these plants face few immediate threats. However, climate change could alter the delicate moisture balance they require, while increasing interest in tepui exploration raises concerns about potential collection for the horticultural trade. The carnivorous bromeliads represent a perfect example of how isolation drives evolutionary innovation. Plants that turn the tables on animals in a competitive environment where conventional strategies proved insufficient. On the dark forest floor of certain tepuis, a small amphibian moves with surprising boldness. Just 2 inches long, its brilliant golden yellow skin stands in stark contrast to the browns and greens of its surroundings. Far from being camouflaged, this frog advertises its presence, a warning that it harbors a deadly secret. This is the golden poison frog, possessing the most potent vertebrate toxin known to science. A single individual carries enough batracha toxin to kill up to 20 adult humans. This neurotoxin is so powerful it has been used by indigenous peoples for centuries to tip their blowgun darts for hunting. A few minutes' contact with a live frog provides enough toxin to create lethal weapons. Unlike many toxic animals that hide to avoid confrontation, these frogs move with conspicuous confidence in broad daylight. Their aposematic coloration with the bright warning colors serves as a powerful advertisement to potential predators. Like the poison dart frogs we encountered in the Amazon, these tepui specialists don't produce their toxins internally. Instead, they sequester compounds from their diet, particularly certain ants and small beetles, found only in their specialized habitat. Frogs raised in captivity never develop toxicity. What makes the golden poison frog particularly fascinating is its complex social behavior. Unlike most amphibians that abandon their eggs after laying, these frogs demonstrate remarkable parental care. The male guards terrestrial egg clutches, keeping them moist by emptying his bladder over them daily, which is a critical service in an environment where eggs might otherwise desiccate. When the eggs hatch into tadpoles, the male carries them on his back, sometimes more than a dozen at once, to suitable water bodies where they'll complete metamorphosis. This transportation service ensures offspring reach appropriate habitat while reducing predation risk during their most vulnerable stage. Communication among these frogs occurs through both visual displays and vocalizations. Males establish and defend territories, advertising their presence with distinctive calls and push-up displays that highlight their bright coloration. Females select mates based on territory quality and display vigor rather than body size. Golden poison frogs are endemic to specific tepuis, with different populations showing slight variations in coloration and toxicity. Their isolated populations appear to be evolving along separate trajectories, a living demonstration of speciation in progress. Listed as vulnerable to extinction, these frogs face multiple threats despite their remote habitat. Their specialized diet requirements make them particularly sensitive to environmental changes that might affect prey availability. Climate change that alters precipitation patterns could disrupt their breeding cycle, which depends on specific moisture conditions. Most concerning is the potential for introduction of the amphibian chytrid fungus, a pathogen that has devastated frog populations worldwide. The isolated nature of tepui habitats has thus far protected these frogs, but increasing human visitation raises the risk of accidental pathogen introduction. Conservation efforts focus on strict biosecurity protocols for researchers and the few tourists who visit these remote regions. The establishment of assurance colonies in carefully controlled captive environments provides insurance against potential wild population collapse. The golden poison frog exemplifies the tepui's capacity for producing extraordinary organisms. These are specialized creatures whose unique adaptations reflect millions of years of evolution in splendid isolation. For thousands of years, indigenous peoples of the Amazon basin viewed the tepuis with reverence, considering them homes of gods and spirits. These beliefs, combined with the mountain's physical inaccessibility, left their ecosystems largely untouched, while lowland forests faced increasing human pressure. Climate change poses perhaps the greatest long-term threat. The specialized organisms of tepui summits have evolved within narrow environmental parameters. As temperatures rise and precipitation patterns shift, these species have nowhere to migrate. They already occupy the highest available habitat. Yet our journey across South America has only begun. Now we travel west, to where the very spine of the continent rises in a geological marvel that has shaped everything from climate patterns to evolution itself. Rising like a great stone spine along South America's western edge, the longest continental mountain range on Earth stretches over 4,300 miles from Venezuela to Tierra del Fuego. In places, these mountains soar more than 22,000 feet above sea level, creating vertical worlds where conditions change dramatically with each step upward. This is the realm of thin air and intense ultraviolet radiation, of freezing nights and burning days, of specialized adaptations that allow life to thrive where oxygen is scarce and weather can change in moments. The Andes were thrust upward by tectonic forces beginning around 45 million years ago, creating isolated ecological islands that drove remarkable evolutionary adaptations. Species separated by seemingly small distances evolved in complete isolation from their relatives in neighboring valleys. These mountains are not merely barriers, but creators of biodiversity, as their presence shapes weather patterns across the entire continent, generating habitats ranging from humid cloud forests on eastern slopes to bone-dry deserts on western flanks. Welcome to the Andes Mountains, where life exists at the very limits of biological possibility. The Andes can be understood as a series of ecological zones stacked vertically. Lower slopes host dense forests nourished by moisture-laden air from the Amazon. Higher up, these give way to cloud forests perpetually shrouded in mist. Higher still lie open grasslands known as Paramo or Puna. And finally, above approximately 16,400 feet, the barren rock and ice of the alpine zone appears, a realm where only the most specialized organisms survive. This verticality creates extraordinary biodiversity within relatively small horizontal distances. A journey of just 60 miles from base to summit might traverse as many ecological transitions as a trip from Mexico to Canada. Water flowing from the Andes sustains much of South America's human population and countless wildlife species. Glaciers and high-elevation wetlands act as natural reservoirs, releasing water gradually throughout the year, a hydrological service of incalculable value. Now, let's meet some remarkable creatures that have mastered life in this vertical world, each employing different strategies to overcome the mountain's challenges. A massive shadow glides across rugged terrain. With wings spread to their full 10-foot span, an enormous black bird rides rising thermal currents with barely a flap. Against the backdrop of snow-capped peaks, the Andean condor performs an aerial ballet that has played out over these mountains for millions of years. This is no ordinary bird. The Andean condor is among the largest flying birds on Earth, with males weighing up to 33 pounds. Their size creates a paradox as they are too heavy to take off without assistance from either strong winds or launching from elevated perches. Yet once airborne, they become masters of efficiency. Riding thermal updrafts and mountain winds, condors can soar for hours without a single wing flap, covering over 100 miles in a day while searching for food. This strategy minimizes energy expenditure in an environment where calories are precious and oxygen is limited. As the condor descends toward a rocky outcrop, a distinctive feature becomes visible: the male's large, fleshy comb atop his bare head. Unlike their feathered relatives, condors have nearly featherless heads and necks, an adaptation for hygiene in birds that feed primarily on carrion. Their ecological role is that of nature's cleanup crew. With exceptional eyesight, they locate dead animals across vast landscapes, then convert decomposing flesh into living tissue, which is an essential service that reduces disease transmission among other wildlife. The bird lands with surprising grace despite its size. Powerful feet secure its position, as the hooked beak designed for tearing, not killing, begins the methodical process of consuming a dead vicuna. The condor's digestive system contains powerful acids that neutralize bacteria and toxins that would sicken most other animals. Unlike many birds of prey that reproduce annually, condors invest extraordinary resources in each offspring. Pairs mate for life and typically produce just one egg every other year. Both parents incubate the egg for about 2 months, then share feeding duties for the growing chick. The young condor will remain dependent on its parents for a full year, one of the longest childhood periods of any bird, before attempting its first flights. Even then, it may associate with its parents for several more years before reaching sexual maturity at age 8 or 9. This slow reproductive rate makes condors extremely vulnerable to population declines. When adults are lost to poisoning, hunting, or collisions with power lines, the species cannot quickly recover. Once ranging throughout the Andes from Venezuela to Tierra del Fuego, condors have disappeared from significant portions of their historic range. Fewer than 10,000 adults remain in the wild, with their status ranging from vulnerable to critically endangered depending on the region. Conservation efforts now focus on reducing deliberate and accidental poisoning, a persistent threat when condors consume carcasses of livestock that were treated with veterinary medications or deliberately poisoned to control predators. Captive breeding programs have successfully reintroduced condors to areas where they had disappeared, though challenges remain. The condor holds profound cultural significance for Andean peoples, who have revered it for millennia as a messenger between the earthly world and the heavens. In traditional cosmology, the condor represents the upper world in a trinity completed by the puma and the snake. As they soar effortlessly through the thinnest air, Andean condors embody freedom and mastery of the vertical dimension, living symbols of these magnificent mountains and their enduring power. Morning mist clings to a steep forested slope high in the Andes. From the tangled vegetation, a dark shape emerges. Rounded ears frame a face marked by distinctive cream-colored rings around the eyes with facial patterns as unique as human fingerprints. This is the spectacled bear, South America's only surviving bear species and the last remaining short-faced bear on Earth. A living relic whose ancestors once dominated the continent's landscape. Unlike their northern cousins, spectacled bears are primarily vegetarian, with plant matter comprising up to 95% of their diet. Powerful jaws and molars easily process tough fibrous vegetation. Front paws with long curved claws serve as precision tools for harvesting fruits, berries, and the tender hearts of bromeliads. Though not built for pursuing prey, these bears occasionally supplement their diet with small mammals, birds, and insects when opportunity presents. Their most impressive feeding adaptation is a talent for constructing feeding platforms in trees, breaking and bending branches to create stable surfaces where they can rest, while consuming fruits otherwise out of reach. Standing about 5 feet tall when upright, spectacled bears are modest-sized compared to grizzlies or polar bears. Yet in the Andean ecosystem, they function as engineers, creating clearings and trails that benefit countless other species. Seeds passing through their digestive systems germinate more successfully, making them important dispersers of many plant species. Now the bear approaches a stream, powerful muscles visible beneath the shaggy black coat. Though not specialized swimmers like brown bears of the north, they readily enter water to cool off or to harvest aquatic plants. Their remarkable climbing abilities allow them to scale trees with surprising speed, despite weighing up to 340 pounds. Unlike many bears, spectacled bears do not hibernate. The relatively stable climate of the tropical Andes eliminates the need for extended winter dormancy. Instead, they remain active year-round, though they may become less mobile during periods of reduced food availability. Female bears give birth to 1 or 2 cubs in secluded dens, often located in caves or hollow trees. Cubs remain with their mother for up to a year, learning critical survival skills before striking out on their own. This extended dependency period makes population recovery slow when adult females are lost. Historically ranging from western Venezuela to northern Argentina, spectacled bear populations have declined dramatically. Today, fewer than 10,000 remain, fragmented into isolated populations with limited genetic exchange. The IUCN lists them as vulnerable, though some local populations qualify as endangered. The bear's primary threat is habitat loss as cloud forests are cleared for agriculture, timber, and mining. Human-bear conflicts occur where remaining forest fragments border farmland, leading to retaliatory killings when bears damage crops. Though protected by law throughout their range, enforcement in remote mountain regions remains challenging. Hope for these remarkable bears lies in creating protected corridors that connect isolated populations, and in working with local communities to develop bear-compatible agricultural practices. Where ecotourism provides economic incentives for conservation, attitudes toward bears have improved significantly. As the only bear species in South America, the spectacled bear occupies a unique evolutionary and ecological niche. Their continued presence in the Andean cloud forests is both biologically essential and culturally significant. Higher still in the Andes, above the tree line where vegetation grows sparse and winds blow constant, a group of elegant camelids moves with deliberate grace across the open landscape. Their fine cinnamon-colored wool glows in the intense high-altitude sunlight. These are vicuñas, the smallest and most delicate of South America's camelid species. Wild ancestors of domesticated alpacas, they have inhabited these harsh highlands for millions of years, developing remarkable adaptations for life at elevations between 10,000 and 16,000 feet. Moving with the watchful alertness of prey animals, the herd maintains precise formation with family groups consisting of a dominant male with several females and their young, while bachelor males form separate groups at the periphery. A designated sentinel often stands guard on high ground, ready to sound a whistle-like alarm at the first sign of danger. What makes vicuñas truly remarkable is their physical adaptation to extreme conditions. Their wool, which is the finest of any animal at just 12 microns in diameter, provides insulation against temperatures that fluctuate from freezing nights to scorching days. Blood with high hemoglobin content efficiently extracts oxygen from thin air, and specialized foot pads minimize impact on fragile vegetation. Now the herd approaches a small stream. Unlike most animals that require daily water, vicuñas have evolved remarkable efficiency and are able to extract sufficient moisture from the vegetation they consume during periods when water sources freeze. Their split upper lip functions as a precision harvesting tool, selecting only the most nutritious parts of the tough grasses that other grazers cannot utilize. This selective feeding prevents overgrazing, which is important in an ecosystem where vegetation grows slowly due to harsh conditions. Rather than consuming plants to the ground like domestic livestock, vicuñas clip just the tops, allowing rapid regrowth. Movement in the distance catches the sentinel's attention. A puma, which is the vicuña's primary predator, approaches from downwind. The alarm call sounds immediately, and the herd executes a practiced escape strategy. Family groups cluster tightly together while running, making it difficult for the predator to isolate individuals. Their slender legs, ending in padded two-toed feet, propel them across rocky terrain at speeds approaching 30 miles per hour. Evolution has favored lighter bodies and longer legs in this species, sacrificing power for the speed and agility needed to escape predators in open terrain. The vicuña's history contains both tragedy and hope. Revered by the Inca, who considered them sacred, vicuñas could only be captured, shorn, and released during special ceremonies. Their wool was reserved exclusively for royalty, with killing a vicuña punishable by death. This protection collapsed following the Spanish conquest. By the 1960s, unregulated hunting had reduced the population from several million to just 6,000 individuals. Facing imminent extinction, vicuñas received urgent international protection. What followed became one of conservation's great success stories. Under strict protection, populations rebounded to over 350,000 today. Innovative management programs now allow controlled harvesting of wool from live animals, providing income to indigenous communities, while maintaining sustainable populations. Once every 2 years, local communities conduct a chaku, which is a traditional roundup, where vicuñas are carefully herded into temporary corrals, shorn, and released unharmed. A single animal produces just 8 ounces of wool, explaining why this luxurious fiber remains one of the most expensive in the world. This sustainable use model has transformed vicuñas from competitors for grazing land into valuable community assets, dramatically reducing poaching and habitat conversion. Biologists now consider vicuñas a species of least concern, a remarkable recovery from the brink of extinction. Yet challenges remain. Climate change threatens the high-altitude grasslands vicuñas depend upon, while mining operations increasingly encroach on their habitat. Maintaining connectivity between populations remains essential for genetic health. The vicuña represents not just a conservation success, but a model for sustainable wildlife management that benefits both local people and ecosystems. A proof that with proper protection and management, wild species can recover even from the brink of extinction. Today, human impact on Andean ecosystems varies dramatically by region and elevation. Lower slopes face intense pressure from agricultural expansion, particularly coffee plantations that often replace native forest. Middle elevations suffer from unsustainable logging and mining operations that contaminate watersheds with heavy metals and processing chemicals. At higher elevations, climate change poses the most severe threat. Andean glaciers are retreating at alarming rates, and Peru's glacial coverage has diminished by more than 40% since the 1970s. This loss threatens water supplies for both wildlife and the millions of people dependent on glacial meltwater for drinking and irrigation. Yet innovative conservation efforts offer hope. The creation of protected areas like Peru's Huascaran National Park safeguards critical habitat while supporting sustainable tourism. Payment for ecosystem services programs compensate highland communities for maintaining watersheds that supply water to lowland cities. From the towering heights of the Andean Paramo, our journey now takes us eastward down slopes, where cloud forests catch moisture from Amazonian air masses. Following rivers that will eventually join the Great Amazon, we arrive at a place where geological history has created one of Earth's most unusual landscapes. Dawn breaks over the Amazon. First light filters through layers of canopy, illuminating a world that houses more species than anywhere else on our planet. Mist rises from the forest floor as the greatest rainforest on Earth awakens. A river like a great brown serpent carves through the green expanse. The Amazon, over 4,000 miles long, draining a basin nearly the size of the continental United States. 1/10 of all known species call this forest home. Over 40,000 plant species, more than 2.5 million insect species, thousands of birds, mammals, reptiles, and amphibians, many still welcome to the Amazon rainforest. The lungs of our planet and the greatest showcase of biodiversity Earth has ever known. The Amazon stretches across 9 countries, but its heart lies in Brazil, where the forest seems to extend forever in all directions. Here life exists in layers, from the dark forest floor to the sunlit canopy far above. Each layer hosts its own communities, its own specialists, its own daily struggles for survival. Rain falls here almost daily, up to 9 feet each year, feeding countless rivers and streams that pulse through the forest like veins. These waterways are highways for creatures both magnificent and deadly. Through flood and drought, the cycle of water shapes everything. What makes the Amazon truly extraordinary isn't just its scale, but its complexity. The relationships between plants and animals here have evolved over millions of years, creating dependencies so intricate that the loss of one species can affect countless others. Now let's meet some of the most remarkable inhabitants of this green labyrinth, each a master of adaptation in their own way. A muscular form moves silently through the undergrowth. Golden coat dappled with black rosettes provides perfect camouflage in the dappled light. Eyes focus forward with unwavering intensity. The largest cat in the Americas is on the hunt. This is a female jaguar, approaching her prime at 4 years old. At nearly 200 pounds, she represents the apex of Amazonian land predators. Nothing here dares challenge her reign. Unlike most cats, jaguars don't fear water. In fact, they embrace it. Rivers are highways and hunting grounds for these powerful swimmers. She pauses at the water's edge, every sense alert. Her patience is legendary as she can remain motionless for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. A ripple in the water catches her attention. A caiman, a crocodilian nearly her own size, slides just beneath the surface. For most predators, this armored reptile would be too dangerous to consider as prey. But the jaguar is different. She calculates distance, timing, angles of approach. Then, in an explosive burst of power, she launches into the water. Powerful jaws clamp directly onto the caiman's skull, precisely where the spine meets the brain. The bite force, which is the strongest of any cat relative to size, drives specialized canine teeth through bone. The jaguar's hunting technique is unique among cats. Rather than the throat bite favored by lions, or the suffocating grip used by leopards, jaguars have evolved a direct kill method, a skull-piercing bite that dispatches prey instantly. Now, dragging her massive prey from the water, she'll carry it into the protection of dense vegetation to feed without competition. A successful hunt means she won't need to kill again for several days. Jaguars live solitary lives, with females occupying territories of roughly 25 square miles. They mark their boundaries with scrapes, urine, and feces that warn other jaguars to keep their distance. Only during brief mating periods do these solitary hunters tolerate company. What makes jaguars truly remarkable is their adaptability. They hunt more than 85 different species, from tiny agoutis to massive tapirs, from fish to monkeys, from river turtles to deer. This flexibility allows them to survive where more specialized predators might fail. Yet even these magnificent cats face mounting threats. Habitat loss has eliminated jaguars from over 40% of their historic range. Poaching continues despite legal protections. And as human settlements expand deeper into the Amazon, conflicts become inevitable. Conservation efforts now focus on creating protected corridors that allow jaguars to move between isolated forest fragments. Their future depends on our willingness to share the landscape with these magnificent predators. In stark contrast to the powerful jaguar, one of the Amazon's most deadly predators could fit comfortably on a human fingertip. In a shaft of sunlight, A brilliant splash of color stands out against the brown forest floor. Electric blue with black spots, nature's warning flag. This is the blue poison dart frog, and its beauty is a deliberate advertisement. Touch me at your peril. At just under 2 inches long, these tiny amphibians contain enough toxin to kill 10 adult humans. Their skin secretes batrachotoxin, a poison so potent it causes immediate paralysis, followed by cardiac arrest. Indigenous peoples have harvested this toxin for centuries, using it to tip their blowgun darts for hunting, hence the frog's common name. Unlike many rainforest creatures that hide their presence, poison dart frogs announce themselves boldly. Their bright colors ranging from cobalt blue to sunshine yellow to strawberry red serve as a warning to potential predators. This strategy, known as aposematism, is nature's equivalent of a danger sign. What's remarkable is that these frogs aren't born toxic. Their poison comes from their diet, particularly certain species of ants and small beetles that contain chemical precursors the frogs then modify and concentrate in their skin glands. Frogs raised in captivity never develop toxicity. Despite their deadly defenses, poison dart frogs are attentive parents. This male guards a clutch of eggs hidden beneath a leaf. When they hatch, he'll carry the tadpoles on his back, one by one, to small water pools formed in the cups of bromeliad plants high in the trees. Each tadpole is placed in its own tiny pool, a strategy that eliminates competition between siblings, but creates another challenge: food scarcity. The solution? The female visits each tadpole regularly, depositing unfertilized eggs as food until metamorphosis is complete. These frogs face an uncertain future. Although not currently endangered, their specialized habitat requirements make them vulnerable to climate change and deforestation. Their limited range and specific dietary needs mean they cannot simply relocate when their forest home is disturbed. Perhaps most concerning is the illegal pet trade. Their stunning colors make them prized collections, and thousands are smuggled out of South America annually, despite legal protections. Away from their specialized diet, captive frogs lose their toxicity, but rarely reproduce successfully. The poison dart frog reminds us that in the Amazon, even the smallest creatures can be extraordinary. Morning on an oxbow lake deep in the rainforest, the still water mirrors the surrounding trees until the surface erupts in a commotion of splashing, snorting, and high-pitched screams that echo across the water. A family of giant otters, the largest otters in the world, announces their presence with characteristic exuberance. Growing up to 6 feet long and weighing over 70 pounds, these social mammals are among the Amazon's most vocal and visible residents. This family group consists of a dominant breeding pair and their offspring from the past 2 years, therefore 8 otters in total. Their sleek brown bodies slice through the water with extraordinary grace, while distinctive white throat patches serve as unique name tags, allowing researchers and the otters themselves to recognize individuals. Unlike their more secretive relatives worldwide, giant Amazon otters are active during daylight hours. Their complex social structure revolves around family bonds reinforced through constant physical contact, vocalizations, and cooperative hunting. Now the family moves with sudden purpose. Hunting formation. They work the shallows like a coordinated team, herding fish into confined spaces. Their sensitive whiskers detect the slightest movements in murky water. Powerful webbed feet provide burst speed that few fish can escape. A large pirarucu, which is one of the world's largest freshwater fish, is detected. At over 6 feet long, this ancient air-breathing fish would be too large for a single otter to tackle. But this is why giant otters live in groups. Three adults converge from different angles, taking turns to exhaust the massive fish. When the Pirarucu surfaces to gulp air, a requirement of its primitive respiratory system, the otters make their final attack, dragging their prize to a feeding platform of trampled vegetation along the shore. The family feeds communally, with a clear hierarchy determining who eats first. The dominant female takes prime position, while juveniles wait their turn. Yet all will receive their share, and this cooperative approach to hunting ensures survival of the entire family unit. Each otter family maintains a territory spanning several miles of river or lake shoreline, marked with distinctive scent mounds that serve as olfactory no trespassing signs. They construct multiple dens with underwater entrances along the banks within their territory, moving between them regularly. Giant otters once ranged throughout most of the Amazon basin and beyond, but they've suffered dramatic declines. Hunted extensively for their pelts until the 1970s, populations have never fully recovered. Today, habitat destruction and water pollution pose the greatest threats. Mercury from illegal gold mining operations is particularly devastating, contaminating the fish these apex predators depend upon and accumulating in their tissues. Where mining operations have transformed riverbanks into lunar landscapes, otters disappear entirely. With fewer than 5,000 individuals remaining in the wild, the future of these charismatic animals hangs in the balance. Protected areas where hunting and mining are prohibited offer the best hope for their survival. The daily lives of these remarkable animals illuminate a crucial truth about the Amazon. Here, water and land are not separate realms but interconnected systems. What happens in one inevitably affects the other. A lesson humans are only beginning to understand. The Amazon rainforest has existed for at least 55 million years, evolving into the most biodiverse ecosystem on Earth. Yet in just the past 50 years, humans have destroyed nearly 20% of its total area, an expanse larger than France. The primary driver remains agricultural expansion, particularly cattle ranching and soybean production. The process follows a predictable pattern. Loggers extract valuable timber. Remaining vegetation is burned to clear the land, and pastures or crops replace ancient forest. Yet there are reasons for hope. Indigenous communities, who have stewarded these forests for millennia, are gaining recognition of their land rights. The fate of the Amazon and the extraordinary creatures that depend upon it rests on decisions being made today. What remains clear is that when we protect this forest, we protect not just wildlife, but the climate stability upon which all life depends. As the mighty Amazon River continues its journey eastward, it eventually meets the Atlantic Ocean, depositing sediment that has traveled thousands of miles from the Andes Mountains. But now our journey takes us south, to a remarkable wetland where water and land exist in perfect balance. Stretching across parts of Brazil, Bolivia, and Paraguay, a vast seasonal wetland pulsates to the rhythm of annual floods. During wet months, up to 80% of this enormous plain lies underwater. As waters recede, a mosaic of lakes, channels, and islands emerges, creating one of Earth's most wildlife-rich ecosystems. This is the Pantanal, the largest tropical wetland on the planet. Unlike the dense canopy of the Amazon that often conceals its wildlife, here animals gather in spectacular concentrations around shrinking water sources during the dry season. A natural cycle of feast and famine, flood and drought, has shaped life here for millions of years. Animals have evolved remarkable strategies to thrive in this ever-changing landscape. where adaptation isn't just advantageous but essential for survival. Here, the boundaries between water and land blur. Fish swim through flooded forests. Birds nest in trees but feed in water. Mammals adapted for both environments dominate the landscape. Welcome to the Pantanal, where South America's greatest concentration of wildlife gathers in a spectacular display of nature's resilience. The Pantanal operates on a predictable annual cycle. From November to March, summer rains transform the landscape. Rivers overflow their banks, and water can rise 10 feet or more across the floodplain. Many terrestrial animals retreat to isolated islands of higher ground. Then, from April to October, the dry season takes hold. Water levels drop, concentrating fish in shrinking pools. This triggers one of nature's great spectacles: enormous gatherings of predators taking advantage of suddenly vulnerable prey. This flooding cycle isn't a disaster, but the essential engine that powers the ecosystem. The floods deposit nutrient-rich sediment across the plain, supporting lush vegetation growth when waters recede. The alternating wet and dry phases create a variety of habitats that support an extraordinary diversity of species. Let's meet some of the most remarkable inhabitants of this dynamic wetland. Each uniquely adapted to thrive in a world defined by waters coming and going. Morning sun illuminates a scene from prehistory. Dozens, no, hundreds of reptilian forms line the banks of a shrinking lagoon. Armored backs break the water's surface. Ridged tails sweep back and forth with slow deliberation, and powerful jaws lined with conical teeth wait with ancient patience. These are Yacare caimans, the most abundant crocodilian in the world, gathering in astonishing numbers as the Pantanal's waters recede. At first glance, these reptiles might appear identical, but closer inspection reveals a social hierarchy in action. The largest males, some exceeding 10 feet in length, claim the prime positions at the water's edge. Smaller individuals are forced into less desirable locations, or must remain submerged. During the wet season, caimans disperse widely across the flooded landscape, but as waters retreat, they congregate by the thousands around permanent water bodies. This concentration serves a crucial ecological function. Their feeding frenzies prevent fish from becoming too abundant in these limited spaces. Now, as morning temperatures rise, metabolisms accelerate. A caiman lunges with explosive speed, jaws snapping shut on a catfish that ventured too close. The precision of the attack belies the seemingly lethargic posture these reptiles maintain for hours. Unlike many predators that must chase their prey, caimans employ an energy-efficient ambush strategy. They can survive for months between substantial meals, which is an essential adaptation for a predator whose food sources fluctuate dramatically with the seasons. During the breeding season, male caimans bellow deeply infrasonic vibrations that ripple visibly across the water's surface. These displays establish dominance and attract females. After mating, females construct mound nests of vegetation where decomposition heat will incubate their eggs. When the eggs hatch after about 70 days, the female's fearsome jaws, capable of crushing turtle shells and mammal bones, become instruments of delicate precision. She gently cracks open eggs to free struggling hatchlings, then carries the 8-inch babies to water in her mouth. For about a year, she'll remain nearby, responding to distress calls from her young. This parental care significantly improves survival rates in an environment filled with predators eager to consume the vulnerable hatchlings. Yacaré caimans once faced intense hunting pressure for their skins, with millions killed between the 1960s and 1980s. Since receiving protection, their population has rebounded remarkably to an estimated 10 million individuals, a rare conservation success story among crocodilians. Yet this success brings new challenges. As caiman numbers grow, interactions with humans increase, particularly with the cattle ranches that occupy much of the Pantanal's higher ground. Most ranchers now recognize that caimans pose little threat to adult cattle and actually benefit ranch operations by controlling capybara populations that compete with livestock for grass. What makes these ancient reptiles truly remarkable is their ecological importance. As apex predators, they regulate fish populations. Their nesting mounds create elevated microhabitats for plants during floods. And during droughts, their wallows become final refuges for aquatic life. They are, in many ways, ecosystem engineers whose presence shapes the entire wetland. Standing nearly 5 feet tall with a wingspan exceeding 8 feet, an imposing black and white bird dominates the landscape. Its massive bill, slightly upturned and sharply pointed, is as distinctive as its completely bald red-black head and neck. This is the jabiru stork, the tallest flying bird in South America and an iconic symbol of the Pantanal. As the stork moves with deliberate steps through knee-deep water, its red eyes scan intently for movement below the surface. Its hunting strategy relies on both patience and precision. This is a specialized approach refined over millions of years of evolution. There, a slight movement. The jabiru freezes, then strikes with astonishing speed. The massive bill plunges beneath the surface and emerges with a writhing fish impaled on its tip. With a practiced toss of its head, the stork repositions its catch and swallows it whole. Jaguars are opportunistic feeders whose diet shifts with the changing seasons. During high water, they concentrate on fish, frogs, and aquatic invertebrates. As waters recede, they target stranded fish in isolated pools. In the driest months, they'll consume snakes, small mammals, and even eggs from caiman nests. This dietary flexibility is crucial for survival in the Pantanal's fluctuating conditions. Unlike specialists dependent on particular food sources, jaguars can exploit whatever resources become available. As the landscape transforms from flooded plain to parched savanna and back again. High in a massive tree, away from ground predators, a pair of jaguars tends to their nest, which is an enormous platform of sticks that may measure 6 feet across and weigh hundreds of pounds. The same nest may be used for decades, growing larger each year as the pair adds new material. Both parents share incubation duties for their clutch of usually 2 to 4 eggs. When the chicks hatch, they're helpless and depend entirely on their parents, who take turns bringing regurgitated food back to the nest. For about 4 months, the parents will care for their growing offspring until they fledge. Even then, young jaguars remain dependent on adults who teach them sophisticated hunting techniques before they achieve full independence. The annual breeding cycle is precisely timed to coincide with the dry season when prey becomes concentrated in shrinking water bodies. This ensures maximum food availability when the energetic demands of raising young are highest. Jabiru populations face serious declines in the 20th century due to wetland drainage and hunting. Today, with approximately 5,000 individuals remaining, they're considered conservation dependent. The Pantanal represents their final stronghold, hosting the largest breeding population anywhere in their range. Conservation efforts now focus on protecting the enormous trees these birds require for nesting and maintaining the natural flood cycle that drives their food availability. Farmers and ranchers in the region increasingly recognize these magnificent birds as natural allies that control populations of agricultural pests. The jabiru exemplifies the Pantanal's unique character, a creature perfectly adapted to exploit the shifting boundary between land and water, capable of traversing vast distances, yet intimately tied to this remarkable wetland for its survival. For centuries, the Pantanal's seasonal flooding deterred intensive human development. Traditional cattle ranching practiced for over 200 years on natural grasslands during dry periods achieved a relatively stable coexistence with wildlife. Indeed, many ranches inadvertently protected habitat by preventing conversion to intensive agriculture. This balance is now under threat. In 2020, catastrophic wildfires burned approximately 30% of the Pantanal, an unprecedented disaster linked to both climate change and changing land management practices. Areas that historically burned every few decades were consumed by flames of unusual intensity, devastating wildlife populations. The Pantanal's future hangs in the balance between development pressures and growing recognition of its irreplaceable ecological value. As one of Earth's great reservoirs of biodiversity and a critical carbon sink, its protection represents not just a regional, but a global priority. From the sprawling wetlands of the Pantanal, our journey now takes us westward and upward to the roof of the continent, where life has adapted to one of Earth's most challenging environments. At the southern end of South America, where the continent tapers to a rugged conclusion, lies a land shaped by wind, ice, and isolation. Vast steppes stretch to distant horizons. Jagged mountain peaks tear at persistent clouds. Glaciers, remnants of ice ages past, still carve valleys and calve icebergs into frigid lakes. This is Patagonia, a region shared by Argentina and Chile that represents one of the last great wilderness areas in the southern hemisphere. Here, life exists on nature's terms. Winds can exceed 100 miles per hour, scouring the landscape and shaping both the terrain and the creatures that call it home. Temperatures fluctuate dramatically, sometimes changing 30 degrees in a single day. Rainfall varies from desert-like conditions in the east to some of Earth's wettest forests in the west. This harsh environment has shaped extraordinary adaptations among the plants and animals that live here. Specialized strategies for surviving conditions that would crush less resilient life forms. Welcome to Patagonia, where survival demands not just strength but ingenuity. Where life persists against seemingly impossible odds. Patagonia's stark beauty results from a complex geological history. The crash of tectonic plates thrust up the Andes along the western edge, while glacial periods repeatedly covered much of the region in ice. As glaciers advanced and retreated, they sculpted the landscape, creating the dramatic features we see today. The region's climate is defined by its position in the path of prevailing westerly winds that circle the southern hemisphere's high latitudes. These winds gather moisture over the Pacific Ocean, deposit it as rain and snow on the western Andes, then continue eastward as dried air, creating a rain shadow that leaves much of Argentine Patagonia in semi-arid conditions. This stark environmental gradient, from temperate rainforests in the west to wind-scoured steppes in the east, creates distinct habitats harboring specialized communities of plants and animals. Let's meet three remarkable inhabitants of this southern realm. each demonstrating different strategies for thriving in one of Earth's most challenging environments. Along Patagonia's Atlantic coast, a strange commuter makes its daily journey. Though its tuxedo-like plumage suggests formal elegance, its movements on land are decidedly awkward. A waddling gait punctuated by occasional tumbles down sandy slopes. This is the Magellanic penguin, a remarkable bird that bridges two worlds by flying underwater with the grace of an arrow, while appearing comically out of place on land. Standing about 2 feet tall and weighing up to 14 pounds, these mid-sized penguins inhabit the cold waters and coastlines near the southern tip of South America. Unlike their Antarctic relatives that brave the continent's harshest conditions, Magellanic penguins represent a more temperate adaptation of the penguin family. What makes these birds extraordinary is their amphibious lifestyle. On land, they appear vulnerable and ungainly. But once they enter the water, a transformation occurs. Bodies streamlined by evolution slice through waves with minimal resistance. Wings which are useless for aerial flight become powerful flippers that propel them to depths exceeding 150 feet. Now a group enters the water for their daily fishing expedition. The awkwardness vanishes instantly. Diving as a coordinated unit, they pursue schools of small fish with remarkable agility. Their black and white coloration serves as perfect camouflage. The dark backs blend with the ocean depths when viewed from above, while white bellies disappear against bright surface waters when seen from below. These hunting trips may extend 30 miles from shore and last all day, with birds consuming up to 2 pounds of fish and squid daily during peak feeding periods. This abundant food supply allows them to build the fat reserves necessary to survive periodic fasting during breeding and molting. Magellanic penguins are monogamous, with pairs often reuniting at the same burrow year after spending months apart at sea. Recognition occurs through distinctive vocalizations, and each penguin's call is unique, allowing partners to find each other among colonies that may number in the hundreds of thousands. Rather than nesting on open ground like many Antarctic species, Magellanic penguins dig burrows up to 15 feet deep in soft soil, or use natural crevices in rocky areas. These shelters protect eggs and chicks from both harsh weather and aerial predators like skuas and gulls. Both parents share incubation duties during the 40-day development period, taking turns while their partner feeds at sea. After hatching, chicks remain in the burrow for about a month before emerging to form kindergartens, groups of young penguins that provide mutual protection, while parents make increasingly longer foraging trips. At about 60-70 days, the young penguins develop their waterproof juvenile plumage and venture into the ocean. They won't return to breeding colonies until reaching sexual maturity at 4-5 years old. Magellanic penguins face a variety of threats, both natural and human-caused. On land, introduced predators like cats and rats prey on eggs and chicks in some breeding areas. At sea, they face competition from commercial fishing operations that target the same fish species penguins depend upon. Perhaps most concerning are oil spills along their coastal habitat. Unlike many birds that die immediately from oil exposure, penguins often survive initial contact but suffer slow deaths from hypothermia as oil compromises their feathers' insulating properties, or from poisoning when they attempt to clean themselves. Conservation efforts focus on protecting breeding colonies, establishing marine protected areas that safeguard critical feeding grounds, and improving oil spill response capabilities. With careful management, populations appear stable in most regions, though climate change impacts on prey availability remain a concern. The Magellanic penguin exemplifies successful adaptation to Patagonia's demanding conditions. A bird equally at home in two dramatically different environments, mastering both through specialized adaptations developed over millions of years of evolution. Across Patagonia's windswept plains, a herd of elegant camelids moves with practiced vigilance. Their golden brown coats blend perfectly with the tawny grasses that stretch to distant horizons. Long necks topped with alert ears and large eyes constantly scan for danger. These are guanacos, the wild relatives of domesticated llamas and among the most perfectly adapted large herbivores of South America's southern reaches. Standing about 4 feet at the shoulder with adults weighing up to 300 pounds, guanacos possess a grace that belies their size. Their padded feet move silently across rocky terrain, while their efficient digestive system extracts maximum nutrition from sparse vegetation. What makes guanacos truly remarkable is their ability to thrive in one of Earth's most demanding environments. Patagonia's harsh climate presents multiple challenges such as freezing winters, scorching summers, relentless winds, and unpredictable rainfall. Yet guanacos have solutions for each of these challenges. Their wool provides insulation superior to almost any other natural fiber, 25% warmer than sheep's wool while being extraordinarily lightweight. Unlike many mammals that shed seasonally, guanacos maintain their insulation year-round, but adjust their metabolism to prevent overheating in warmer months. Water conservation represents another remarkable adaptation. Able to extract moisture from even the driest vegetation, guanacos can survive extended periods without drinking. This is an essential ability in a landscape where reliable water sources may be widely scattered. Social structure plays a crucial role in guanaco survival strategy. The herd we're observing represents a family group, a dominant male with a harem of females and their young. The male maintains constant vigilance, often standing on elevated ground to survey the surroundings. At the first sign of danger, he emits a high-pitched alarm call that sends the herd into immediate flight. An approaching predator, a puma, triggers this exact response. The male's alarm sends females and young sprinting away, while he briefly holds ground, drawing the predator's attention before executing his own escape. This self-sacrificing behavior increases survival chances for the breeding females and next generation. Guanacos maintain complex territorial systems. Family groups occupy the best grazing areas, while young males form separate bachelor herds that roam more widely. These bachelor groups serve as reservoirs of genetic diversity and potential replacements when territorial males are displaced. One of the guanaco's most distinctive behaviors occurs during conflicts between males competing for territory or females. Rather than potentially damaging physical combat, they engage in ritualized spitting contests, projecting partially digested stomach contents at their rival. This strategy resolves disputes while minimizing injury risk. Their reproductive strategy reflects adaptation to Patagonia's harsh conditions. Single offspring called chilengo are born fully developed after an 11-month gestation, capable of running within 5 minutes of birth. This precocial development is essential in an environment where vulnerability equals death. Once numbering in the millions across Patagonia, guanaco populations declined dramatically during the 20th century due to habitat loss, hunting, and competition with introduced sheep. At their lowest point, fewer than 600,000 remained. Recent conservation efforts have allowed modest recovery to approximately 1.2 million individuals, still far below historic numbers. The greatest conservation challenge involves mitigating conflict with sheep ranching, which occupies much of the guanaco's native range. Progressive ranchers increasingly recognize that moderate guanaco populations can coexist with sustainable sheep operations, often focusing on different vegetation types. In Patagonia, the line between survival and extinction is razor thin, yet life persists with grace, strength, and astonishing ingenuity. From the burrow-dwelling penguin to the vigilant guanaco, each inhabitant tells a story of adaptation written in the language of endurance. This is not just a place of dramatic landscapes. It is a living, breathing wilderness, where evolution is etched into every feather, fiber, and footprint. From the emerald depths of the Amazon, where jaguars stalk through flooded forests and poison dart frogs gleam like jewels, to the vast watery expanse of the Pantanal, where caimans gather in the thousands and giant otters hunt in coordinated packs, to the towering heights of the Andes, where condors ride thermals over ancient peaks and spectacled bears climb cloud forests in search of fruit, to the mystical Tepui summits, where golden poison frogs and carnivorous bromeliads thrive in isolation, and finally, to the windswept plains of Patagonia, where guanacos outrun pumas and Magellanic penguins brave icy waters. South America's wild places showcases nature's resilience, diversity, and sheer ingenuity. Yet these ecosystems face unprecedented challenges. Deforestation, climate change, mining, and human encroachment threaten species that have evolved over millions of years. The Amazon burns, the Pantanal's waters are polluted, Andean glaciers retreat, and even the remote tepuis are not immune to human impact. But there is hope. Conservation efforts led by indigenous communities, scientists, and local stewards are making a difference. Jaguars are reclaiming lost territories. Vicuñas have rebounded from near extinction, and protected areas are expanding. Ecotourism is proving that wildlife can be more valuable alive than exploited. South America's wilderness is not just a thing of the past, but a living, breathing force, still wild, still untamed. Its fate rests in our hands. Will we protect these last great refuges of biodiversity, or will we let them slip away? The choice is ours. Fallen in love with South America's wild wonders? Hit that like button and let us know your favorite animals or place in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you believe in protecting these breathtaking landscapes and the wildlife that call them home, share this video and spread the word. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss our next journey into the wild. Until then, stay curious, stay wild, and we'll see you on the next adventure.